Let's make Lao sauerkraut using red cabbage. We're going to start by adding cold water to a pot. Add in your rice powder, and then you're going to blend this up until it looks like milk. Then we're going to heat this up on low until it gets to a thick consistency.
Ooh, excuse you. All right, so the pot is getting warm and now it's starting to cook. Let's go ahead and turn that heat off. And we're going to stir this just a little bit more.
You want to mix this until it turns into a thick consistency, like a paste. Once it's gotten to this thickness, then you're just going to set it aside and let it cool down. Let's go ahead and cut our cabbage. We're going to cut it up in big chunks, utilizing the entire cabbage, including the core. Now, you can cut this up into thin slices if you want, but I find that the bigger chunks tend to stay crunchier longer.
We're going to use 3 green onions, and with this, we're going to cut it in strips, about 3 phalanges long. 1, 2, 3 phalanges long. And then when I get to about here, I go ahead and I cut it about right there and slither the thicker part in half. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we want the brine to go into the onions. Did you know that onion roots are also edible? It's not poisonous. Most people just cut it off and get rid of it because either it's too fibrous for them or that's what they've been told to do, but it's actually quite edible. So we're gonna go ahead and use this as well. What we're gonna do is we're gonna slice that up so that the brine can get in between the little layers. So yeah, eat your onions. Don't judge me for my hairy exterior. I'm delicious.
All right, so in our large bowl of cabbage, we're just going to add some salt. I'm using sea salt because it's healthier than your iodine table salt, but you use whatever you have available.
When we massage the cabbage, what we're doing is we're flipping it and pressing it into the salt. And this helps to distribute the salt to the cabbage, which helps release the moisture out of the cabbage. And as you're doing this, you can also do it like this, and it helps to split the leaves apart so that the salt will cover the leaves evenly or as much as possible. If anyone's ever asked you, hey, have you exercised today? You can just tell them, hey, have you seen my sauerkraut? Because this does require a little bit of upper arm and shoulder strength. All right, so we've been massaging this for about maybe 5 minutes now, and there is some liquid that's starting to like leak, or not leak, I'm sorry, coming down. You see that from the cabbage? Now at this point, where it's getting like much flimsier, it's not gonna snap when you bend it. Now we're gonna add our water, and then we're going to add the optional magic ingredient. And you want to be careful because now that you've added the water, there may be some splashing. Okay, so we've been massaging this for maybe 8 minutes total now, and our cabbage is definitely very flimsy. Let's take a taste. And I can taste the salt. I can taste the cabbage. And when you massage it, maybe it's just me, but like when you massage it with the salt in there, it brings the sweetness out of the cabbage. So you get this nice umami, salty, slightly sweet flavor. It's quite good. At this point, I don't want this to be massaged anymore or more intensely because I want this to stay crunchy later on. So now we're gonna add, remember the green onions we had? We're gonna toss that in, and then we're just gonna lightly massage it in. You don't want to put a lot of pressure on it because the more you massage it, it's gonna get very wilted and it's gonna get really soft and unrecognizable later. So I like to be able to still see the green onions. I totally forgot the rice paste. Dang it. Okay, hold on. Okay, so we have our rice paste. Usually you want to add this in after you add the water and the magic ingredient. But since I forgot, it's okay. We can still add it here because we're not finished with it yet. So we're just gonna go ahead and dump this in there. And then since we already have the ingredients in here, including the green onions, we're just gonna lightly toss it in. We want the rice paste to blend in with the water because the rice paste is what's going to feed the good bacteria, and that's what's going to help ferment this. Let's give a quick taste. Oh man. Yo, I can eat this right now, but I must be patient. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and put this in a jar. And when you put this in, you want to try to like pack it down. If you have tiny hands with like me, you can fit the whole thing in. Ugh. Ugh. But most of you probably don't have baby hands like I do. Hulk angry. So you can use like a wooden spoon or something to push it down. And the reason that we want to push it down is because we don't want air to be caught in between the vegetables, because that leads to potential spoilage. Now we're going to take the brine and we're going to fill up the jar. The easiest and cleanest way I found to do this is putting it in one of these measuring cups that has the spout, or just anything that really has a spout. Wow, look how pretty that is. And then we're going to make it purple rain, purple rain. And you don't want to fill it all the way, because as time progresses, the cabbage will start releasing some of the juice and the bacteria will start forming gases, and then that'll push the liquids up. So you want to leave some space for the expansion. And since we have our brine here, we want to go ahead and just squeeze, turn and squeeze, turn and squeeze, so that we're getting that liquid all the way in, because sometimes there may be crevices that we might have missed, and we just want to try to get that liquid in. If you have leftover brine, don't throw it away. This is still edible and it's still useful. You can let this ferment on the counter for about maybe 3 days, and it'll get into like a sour flavor. And then you can take shots of it for probiotics. All right, so we want to make sure the brine is above the vegetables, the solids, so that there won't be bacteria growth. Let's go ahead and close it up. Come on. There we go. Ta-da. Put it in a container. If you accidentally overfilled or filled higher than what you were expecting, and the liquid starts to release and the fermentation starts to build up and it overflows, ask me how I know, this will catch it, okay? And you won't have like stinky fermenty smell all over your counter, your wood or whatever. This will at least catch it. Okay, it's been about 3 days. And you see it's already been fermenting. I actually had left this slightly loosely open, so that's allowed it to burp itself. Otherwise, the liquid would have like overflowed. But you see how much has risen already. That bubbles, that's good stuff. That is going to be the gas from the yeast. And I'm just gonna push this down just a bit so we can try to keep it from overflowing. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna taste it too. It's been 3 days. Usually about 3 days is when you want to start tasting it. All right, it's slightly sour or tangy, whatever word you want to use. But I want it a little bit more tangy. So I'm going to leave this probably for another 2 days, which will then make it about 5 days. And usually about day 5, it's good for me.